Hi everyone, Jennifer Blevins-Smith with Integral Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Today I want to talk about credentialing fact-finding. Hopefully this title has intrigued you a little bit and that's why you're watching this video. And I'm happy that it worked if that's the case. When credentialing, you're always kind of on this fact-finding mission to completion, right? It all begins with, gathering information and then putting the information together and then gathering some more information so you could submit the applications. And then it's gathering information to find out where the process is for your application, where it's at, et cetera, et cetera. But what I'm specifically talking about in this video is actually what you should be asking for when you're calling the insurance companies during the early stages of the credentialing process. I'm not sure if you have watched my step-by-step credentialing video, but if you haven't, I encourage you to check it out. The card is right here so that you can make sure that you click on it after you watch this, and maybe this will make a little more sense. But when you're in the process of calling and contacting the insurance companies to find out if the existing credentialed provider has, time left on their credentialing packet, if you will, like if they're due for recredentialing or not, and you're trying to find out what you need to do in order to get them associated to a new contract and how to initiate a new contract, when you're actually having a dialogue with someone at the insurance company, there are 4 big things that I encourage you to make sure you're jotting down, documenting, and keeping as a reference for later. These are 4 things in addition to what you would be calling about as far as how to submit applications, how to request a contract, where is the provider in the credentialing process, or what's their standing of credentialing there. Those are very basic, and that's why you would be calling. But building off of those, there are 4 other things that you should be asking about when you're calling. You have their undivided attention. Take advantage of it so you don't have to call back at a later date and spend more time on the phone. If it's through email, that's even better. You can outline 1, 2, 3, 4 in addition to your other questions, send it off, and then you'll have it in writing. So however you need to communicate with them about it, perfect. The first thing is you want to ask what the name of the provider is at the insurance company, how they're registered, and that will tell you how they're identified at the insurance company. So is it maybe their shortened name and their last name without a middle initial? Is it maybe their full name and last name without their middle initial? But you would want to ask how they're identified with their MPI number in the system. This is important because before you submit credentialing applications, you're going to make sure that the provider's name matches exactly as it does between their licensure and their MPI-1 registration with MPPES. Those need to match. And then hopefully it would also match at the insurance company. Then you'll have the 3 pieces of information and you'll have to figure out which one it really should be by their legal name and which ones need to be updated. Hopefully the licensure is their legal name and how it should be on everything else, but it's hard to say. It depends on who initiated the licensure initially, who registered for the MPI for the provider initially, and then who credentialed the provider. So you could have a Jennifer and my license says Jennifer Blevins-Smith, but my MPI number says Jen Blevins-Smith, and maybe at the insurance company, I'm just Jennifer Smith. Yikes. Everything should be matching. So you should be asking exactly how they are registered with their MPI at the insurance company so you can compare all 3. Number 2, if you are calling on behalf of a group that's existing at an insurance company. Now this would be more for like a contract, right? You would want to ask how the name is registered with the insurance company. This is important if you're needing to add other providers to that contract because they're new to the practice, or if you're trying to re-credential a provider under that practice, you need to know that information. If the group doesn't exist yet because you're initiating a contract, that saves you a question because you don't have to worry about that. This all comes into play because the group name should match exactly how they're registered with the IRS for their tax ID, and you should have that special form that reflects how they're registered. And then that name should match exactly at the bank account how their business account is registered. Everything needs to match. And I will let you know that when you are applying for a group through PECOS for Medicare, if the tax ID name and the name of the group don't match on that voided check when you're enrolling in EFT and ERA, EDI enrollment, they will kick it back to you and they will tell you to correct it. And usually it's easier to correct at the bank to get the name to match what's on the IRS form than it is to do it the other way around. So for thorough and non-issues down the line, just make sure when you're registering your group for the contract at the insurance company that either you update it to it match so that it all is congruent, or you initiate that initial contract with the right information. So that's number 2, if it's applicable. Number 3, and this is really important, if the provider is already credentialed with the insurance company or even the group, if you have to call about the group and you need to add a provider and ask them how you're going to add this new provider to the group contract, find out what the contact information is that's on file for both the provider as an individual and for the group if it exists already with the insurance company. Because chances are it will either have a personal email address on file that maybe is no longer valid because that person no longer works with the entity or the provider and it's going to go into lost space, whatever communication, or it's going to go to the provider directly and they're going to see stuff and not understand what it is and they're going to ignore it, or it goes to their spam box. You want to make sure the phone numbers, the email addresses that are on file for any kind of communication regarding credentialing, regarding contracting, anything that needs to be discussed regarding those situations, have some kind of contact information that multiple people have access to, whether it's the clinic phone number and they ask for the credentialing specialist, or it's a mailbox, like an email that multiple people have access to, like a credentialing at whatever domain name.com, so that the owner has access to it, the credentialing specialist has access to it, the manager has access to it. So if somebody no longer works there, or they're on vacation, or they're out for an undetermined amount of time, someone else will see that information. If you're working on behalf of someone, this is also important. It shouldn't be your email address. It should be an email address for the company in which you're working on their behalf, that they grant you access to that email. And then when you're done working for them, they can just remove your access to that email inbox. But it's really their information and you want them to be able to reference and research it in the future if they need to. So it's best to do it that way. But if you're calling and you're trying to update a provider's information, or you're trying to do something with a group contract and they have the incorrect contact information on file, it's not going to help anybody and you're just going to be spinning your wheels, waiting for stuff and delaying unnecessarily moving forward. The last piece of information that you want to ask about, especially if you're new to credentialing for this provider or for this group, etc., when you're calling, ask when the provider that you're speaking about is due for their next credentialing. When is their re-credentialing due? They will have a date available. You most likely won't know this already. The provider won't know. So make sure you get that date so that you can either put it on your tracker to anticipate re-credentialing them when it's due, or you can provide it to the owner, manager, provider themselves and say, hey, not sure if you're aware, but at Aetna, you're due for re-credentialing on May 1st of this year, or May 1st of 2025. If you're on the phone with them already and you're talking to them about a provider and trying to find out what their status is with credentialing, and they say, oh, they're good, we're fine, you just need to associate them with the contract, put them on the provider roster, whatever, great, thank you, but can you let me know when they're due for their re-credentialing? just to have that information. It's very helpful, and then you're not trying to track it down. And then at the same time, ask who the contact would be on file for them to contact when it's due, what address is on file, email address, phone number, so that you can ensure that when the recredentialing is coming up, it's getting to the right place. Because if you're not going to continue working there, or it's not your situation, and you want to make sure that they get notified, that's how you would do it. If you have any questions or comments about this, please leave that in the comments below. Please check out my step-by-step credentialing instructions, because I think this will make a lot more sense if you understand the credentialing process and what other things, how it fits into everything else. I also have a credentialing course that I have launched. I have released the beginners and intermediate sections. The advanced section will be coming. So if you are interested in learning how to credential yourself or a clinic because you're a manager or a staff member that's going to be assisting in this responsibility, please check out my course on Thinkific. Smash the thumbs up button if today's video was helpful. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And please share my video with anybody whom you feel would benefit. Take care, be well. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.